Hey folks, Tyler here with Richmere Outdoors, and today we're going to be refinishing a gun stock. This stock belongs to a friend of mine who rescued this rifle. It's been bubbled up quite a bit. The folks who had it before that he bought it from, they spoilerized the stock. This is not the complete stock. They spoilerized it, cut the barrel down, and they wrote "dude" into the stock. So this is I haven't looked at the markings on the rifle yet, but this is a number 4 Mark I 303 British Enfield. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean this stock up, refinish it, and give it back to them. So tools today are the dreaded Dremel. I know people hate putting Dremels to guns in whatever capacity. It's all about finesse. So the tool that I'm using is the part number is 511E-01. Looks like that. What these are abrasive brushes. They're soft, they're pliable. This one's a little stiffer because this is old thick finish, but they're soft, pliable brushes. It's not like a hard sandpaper drum which will just gouge the wood. This will just take off the finish and nothing more. And then after we get that part done, I have sandpaper. I actually use 5 different grits of sandpaper for this process. That's just what I happen to have on the table at the time. But I go from 60 grit to 400 grit. Sometimes I'll even go to 600 if I need to. So, let's put our eyes on and we'll get started. So we're going to tackle this dude first. This right here. We're going to tackle this first. And the whole key to this, back in the camera, the whole key to this is a 2-speed Dremel, battery powered, so I have to stop and recharge it. It's kind of annoying, but it works. You put it on the low setting. You can use high if you get into a really sticky spot where it's just the finish isn't coming up. But if you put it on low and you just give it time, it'll do just fine. So let's kick it on. We'll kick it on low, and we'll start working on this end of the stock and working the dude out. More likely I'm going to finish doing that by hand with hand paper and sandpaper, that is. So here we go. So it's all about just gentle touches, just enough to touch the wood. And all we're doing is we're taking that lacquer off. So I managed to get about 3/4 of the stock done before the battery on my Dremel died. So as you can see, we've taken off the top layer of clear coat. You can kind of tell the difference. Clear coat on that side, none on this side. So what we're going to do now is we still have this dude to take care of, because that's carved in there. Well, fairly deep. So unfortunately, we're going to end up taking a good bit off of this sock here, at least off this side. The whole trick is you want to keep it even. That way you don't end up with a bowl effect. So I have my 60 grit sandpaper. I'm just going to push down. I'm just going to start sanding with the grain. This will also remove any of the leftover clear coat as well. Now you can start with 60 grit sandpaper if you don't have a Dremel or anything like that, and that's how I started when I first started doing gun stocks. I can tell you it takes a long time and a lot of elbow grease. So if you can get your hands on a Dremel, it's so much faster. Alright, so we're just going to continue on with our sanding 60 grit paper for the entire length of the stock. And you can see we're starting to have something happen here. So as much as I want to just focus on the dude part of it where it's all carved out, I can't, because if I focus there, again, you'll get the bowl effect. So we'll just put the elbow grease to it with a 60 grit sandpaper. You have to watch because it will fill up your paper. You can tap it out if it'll come out, or you'll just have to find a new spot of paper that's not all gummed up. Alright, so now I'm going to fold this up, get a little more of an edge on it, and I'm going to just attack this carving. See if I can't get it to come out a little bit. And I apologize for the shaking of the camera. Everything's got it mounted on the table and it all shakes. This is actually starting to come out fairly well. It's not too deep, which is really good. Because if you go too deep on these, at that point you just might as well get a new gun stock. Because it's just going to remove so much material. It's not going to shoot right, it's not going to feel right. Well, this isn't too bad, so we can fix this. Focused on the letters for a bit. Now I'm going to switch and I'm going to focus around the letters. That way we don't get that uneven swale. And while you're going around the letters, you will still remove pieces of that. It looks like a lot of material is coming off, but it's really not. One of those looks worse than it is. So now I'm back on the letters. I'll focus on that for a bit. So I'll show you how we're getting. Starting to disappear, coming along pretty nice. So I'm going to work on that for a bit, and then we'll come back and show you where we're at. Well, I have gotten our stock completely sanded down, all nice and clean, best I can do it. So now is the time for the fun part. We're going to go over to the staining. Because this stock has some dark spots naturally in the wood, I decided to use a dark stain. So I'm using this American walnut stain. This will actually be the first time I've used this color, so I'm quite interested to see how it turns out. So, get the cat out of the way here. So I'm going to be using a sponge brush to put it on. We have paper towels to wipe the stain off, because you still want to be able to see your grain, or at least most people do, want to be able to see your grain through the color. If you put it on too thick, then you'll more than likely not see the color. So we're going to start on this side. Remember, this is the side that had dude written in the stock, and that dude is pretty much a memory at this point. If you look really, really close, you might see a small nick or scratch here and there. Other than that, it's gone. I didn't want to go too deep, so that's why you might see this little nick here. But it looks pretty natural in the wood at this point. So I'll give you a close up on that so you can see. All right, so let's get on to the fun part, the stain. Like I said, we have our walnut stain. All we're gonna do is we're gonna put our sponge brush in it, and you're gonna brush with the grain. Just like sanding, you want to go with the grain. We're gonna put it on there fairly thick at first. There we go. Gives it a nice color. And just a word of advice, if you're doing this on your kitchen table, and unlike me, you don't have this table that you don't really worry too much about getting stuff on, I highly recommend putting newspapers, plastic, something down. That way your wife, your girlfriend, significant other won't get mad that you got stain all over the kitchen table. Does it come out? Yes. But it's not easy. Alright, so we've done the first half of the stock, the side and the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to let that sit for just a couple of seconds. And then we're going to take our paper towels and we're going to wipe that excess away. Now this is a Rust-Oleum stain. Usually I use Minwax, but Rust-Oleum had the color that I wanted. And it claims that you only need one coat to do a project. But we will see what happens. Like I said, this is my first time using this particular stain. So now that it's set for a few seconds, we're going to wipe it down. So you got some excess coming up. Again, you're going to wipe with the grain. This will help get it into all those little nooks and crannies. You might actually have to get into them a little bit yourself. And that's where she is. So we'll have one side and the other. Get some color going on. So I like this single coat color. I'm thinking that I might put one more coat on just to see how it looks. Again, we could just wipe it off like we did. So we'll take our sponge brush again. We'll put another coat on with a stain. All right, folks, so we are done with this stock project. All that is left is to put it back on the rifle. So here we are. I ended up putting 2 coats on this stock, and I wiped it down, showing with the method that I showed you earlier. And when I was wiping, you can blend it in. Again, with wiping, you just cross over the seams, if you will, where each side lines up. And you can blend it right in. You never see a difference that way. And here's the fore end. I mean, she looks almost as if when it was first issued. So I'm going to put this back together, and we'll be sending it back to the customer. The one little end note that I will add is one option that you do have is you can seal this with a polyurethane or a gunstock wax. And either method works very well. The polyurethane goes on smooth. You have to sand in between coats, and it usually takes a couple of days to dry in between those coats. And if you choose that method, you want to sand using 400 or even 600 grit sandpaper. You sand down the poly, wipe it off, put on your new coat, and continue that until you get the as many layers as you want. Gunstock wax, you just put it on a little paper towel, wipe it onto the stock, that way it's nice and smooth, even coating, let it dry, and there you go. It's that easy, and it doesn't have the odor that polyurethane has. So, with that, I'm going to put this back together. Thank you for watching, and check us out next time on Richmere Outdoors.